hello, and welcome to the show. It is August 4th, 2024. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I've got some cool personal news, and then I kind of want to dive into topics. I do want to talk about kind of intangible things like love. I feel like it's an interesting conversation to have, especially because I've had conversations with apologists and seen videos of apologists talk about love being a proof for the existence of God. And so, what about things like love? What about things like charity and honesty? Are they tangible? Are they things that we can account for as skeptics? And what does that look like? What does that mean to you? I feel like that's something that gets brought up and thrown out, and not a lot of people really interact with that idea. And so I'd love to interact with you. I have open lines. I would love to take your call. So before I dive into any other news, I want to get the phone number out there. It is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Again, 412-753-7436. Or for that crystal clear audio, you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Either way, it's toll free. We're paying for it. And so no matter where you are in the world, I'd love to have this conversation. All right. So I do want to give a little bit of personal news, though. I'm very excited about this. Part of the deal with, picking up work, doing contract work, and doing YouTube shows is insurance is not a guaranteed thing. And today is the first day that I've been on my medications since restarting the show, and I'm very excited about it. I definitely feel like my level of focus is is just really good. I'm really happy to be here. So that's awesome. I want to thank everyone for their patience with me because these last couple months have been rough. I know that on Patreon, those of you who stayed and supported me, I sincerely appreciate it. I lost a good number of patrons, and that's understandable because I haven't been getting everything out that I need to. And I feel like I'm getting back on track, so it's nice. If you do want to support the show, I would sincerely appreciate it. You could do so by hitting the like button, hitting subscribe, hitting the thumbs up. Helps get this video out there. Share it out to anybody that you want to talk to, especially if they ever brought up, well, what about love? And if you want to financially support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. That's patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. Ooh, I have a caller who wants to talk about polyamory. Ooh, that's going to be fun. Okay, while this call gets screened, let's move on and talk about love just a little bit. So, I want to give the best approximation of what the argument would be. That way, I'm not just being uncharitable, right? When an apologist would call in and talk about love being a proof for the existence of God, it's because they view love as something that's entirely intangible, that it's something that exists on the same level as a soul, and that it's a soul connection, and that those feelings are only experienced through, an entirely non-tangible, not viewable under a microscope thing. And because of that, they can say that if love exists, and we all agree that love exists, then we can then point to a soul or point to a higher power. Here's my take on it. I would love to get your take, but here's mine. I think love is an incredible thing, and I do think that love exists. But they're right. It is not investigatable. It's not viewable under a microscope. We're not able to bottle love, but we're also not able to bottle justice, right? Love is a basket full of different things. It's chemical, hormonal reactions. It's connections with one or more people on a really deep level. It's caring for those people, either romantically or not. There's all of these pieces to it. And so I feel like when people talk about love as a single thing, they're not recognizing the complexity of love. They're not recognizing every different piece that goes into it, that if something was missing from it, right? If reciprocation potentially wasn't missing, or that connection, it could be infatuation, it could be obsession, it could be a whole bunch of other things. And because of that, like we recognize this bundle of feelings and connections, we call it love. And while I can't look at love under a microscope, I can, piece by piece, account for everything that makes love what we say it is. So here's the next question. Does that cheapen it? I got to tell you, I thought so. When I was deconverting, when I was deconstructing the idea of love being a physical thing, it definitely feels less magical, right? It feels, if when you're told that you are one special puzzle piece and you're matching puzzle pieces out there somewhere in the world, which is a monogamous viewpoint, which I hope to talk to our next caller about. But it feels special. And so to all of a sudden find out that, you don't have some matching puzzle piece definitely did feel like a letdown. But over time, I feel like I've matured my opinions of it. I definitely think that the beauty of a relationship isn't that you found someone, the one person who you're supposed to be with. I don't think you're supposed to be with anyone. I think that what you develop with them, growing together and striving to help each other become the best versions of themselves, and then and watching them help you become the best version of yourself. It's so much more tangible, it's so much more real, and I love that. I do. I love that. I love that the fleeting, unnecessary nature of the connections that we have with each other is something that needs to be tended to. We can't take each other for granted. And, people are saying that the audio is low. Let me make sure that I bump my audio up. And, it is low. There we go. All right. Sorry for people who had cranked their audio up. I hope that's a little bit better. Let me know if I need to bump it up anymore. All right. Anyway, back to it. The other thing that I was going to say is that I remember worrying, especially the first time I fell in love and when it didn't work out, having this fear that I lost my one opportunity, that one person, that one other puzzle piece. I was sure that they were that person. And after losing that relationship, I thought, well, I'm now going to be connectionless. I've lost my opportunity. And because of that, I'm never going to have that connection again. And it puts so much pressure on relationships that may not be good for you, may not be good for anyone. I don't think people should have to invest in relationships that are damaging to them, either emotionally or just generally mentally. It helped me as a non-believer going through breakups, knowing that I had the opportunity to create just as meaningful, just as loving relationships with someone else. And it genuinely gave me comfort. Excuse me. So that's how I feel about it. That said, if love or some other intangible concept that may feel like it has a supernatural or is often pointed to a supernatural cause, give me a call. I have one caller on the line. I'm about to talk to Ashley, but before I do, let me put the phone number out there one more time. I'd love for this to be a full episode. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Tiny.cc/SKEPGEN to call in toll free. I have a call screener who's waiting to talk to you, and I'd love to have this episode be something that we continue on. In the meantime, though, I'm happy to take our first caller, Ashley in Minnesota. Ashley, you're live on the show.
Hey, how's it going, Eric?
Hey, doing well. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, let me just get your info here in the lower third. And while I do that, why don't you talk to me? What would you want to call in about?
So I guess it's a slight criticism in polyamory.
Ooh, all right. I don't know how many poly call-in show hosts there are, but I know that you definitely got one. So what do you got? Talk to me.
Yeah. So I'm in a polyamorous relationship with several partners.
Okay.
But the issue I'm having with it is all of my partners have primary partners,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. So I feel like I kind of third wheel the whole polycule.
Yeah. I get that.
Which is not to say that it's like I feel unloved or, unattended to, because we are very good about communication and stuff. It doesn't feel like there's someone that I can lean into, I guess.
Well,
It's like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I definitely want to be intentional in the way I kind of. Okay, so the first kind of thing I need to say just out there is that every relationship, especially in poly relationships, is something that is agreed upon and consented to by all parties involved. And this isn't for you. This is for people who are watching, who may not have had this. But the expectations and the what you set up with those other people, any other people, even in monogamous relationships, that's between you and them. And so viewing it from my point of view, it sounds like you have a need that none of your current partners are meeting right now. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have room for someone else, or do you need to make room?
The issue is, I think I need to make room, because I currently have 4 partners.
Okay.
And that's pretty emotionally taxing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it absolutely is. Jeez, oh man.
Google Calendar is your friend. Google Calendar is your friend.
Yeah, putting time on other people's calendar, and then also, feeling like that step parent that only gets partial, fighting for custody kind of thing. Well, I get them every other Thursday, and it's my day. It definitely feels. It is its own vibe. If you were to tell your partners, hey, I have a need that's not being met, and I need to reevaluate, what do you think they would say?
Well, the issue, I think, is more of a me hang-up, because I love my partners. They're all awesome, and I don't want to excise them from, that intimacy that we've grown over the past, 8 or so months.
Yeah.
I think. And it would just, to make that emotional space, I'd have to shift around the proverbial Lego blocks.
Yeah.
And that feels bad.
Oh, absolutely. I think that one thing you do have going for you is it sounds like everyone else that you're involved with believes in hierarchical polyamory. Does that sound right?
Kind of.
Okay.
So it's not that it's more like there are like partners that they've been with longer.
Okay.
Like I just attended my girlfriend's wedding, not last Thursday, but the Thursday before, to her like primary nesting partner.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy for them. But it's not like that type of love is being, taken from elsewhere
Okay.
to pour it into another partner.
Sure. But I mean, if all of the other people that you're involved with have a need to be first for someone and to put someone 1st, then I think it's incredibly reasonable for you to be able to communicate that need with them and say, I need someone who I can put first and who would put me first. I'm speaking from a position that's not you, and so I want to try and make sure that I'm not like projecting, But I honestly, I think anybody who's worth keeping should understand that if you got to look for that, then you got to, Yeah. So I think communicating that with everybody first is important.
Yeah. Communication obviously is the key to making any relationship work.
True,
especially when there are more than one person's involved.
Oh my gosh, so much. Absolutely. An exhausting amount, actually.
Yeah.
But so is there anybody that you want, like, that you foresee yourself potentially having a primary relationship with? Or is this something that you maybe want to go look for?
I think it's something that I'd like to go looking for. But in the interim, it feels like I would be, it feels like I'm abandoning someone,
I mean,
it feels like I'd be losing a partner that I care very deeply about to go and pursue something that is possibly better, at least emotionally and connected.
Yeah.
And that feels bad.
Understood. I don't know. I feel like there are two ways you could do it. The one way is you try and keep everybody that you have, and then you go and start dating and you find somebody. And if that's that person, then you're all of a sudden in a much worse situation that you got to deal with. Or you try and make room now, which means that you'll be left with this kind of empty place for a potential thing that, it's kind of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush kind of thing. Yeah, no, I get it. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to deal with this. I think that the only real wrong way is not communicating with everybody.
Yeah. And the last thing I'd want to do is to try and hide my feelings from my partners, because that's not a very emotionally healthy way to deal with any of this.
No. And I mean, I feels especially, it feels especially reasonable for you to want that, seeing everyone else that you're with already having that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. Have you had this conversation with your partners?
I've had this conversation with a couple of my partners. The issue I ran into was one of my partners confided in me that they would, I guess, like to become primary partners if it were to fill that emotional need. But I don't want to take them away from their current primary partner. I don't want to take that role from someone, because that feels like I'm inserting myself, into a relationship just to cause strife within their relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time,
Yeah. Go ahead.
At the same time, I think that okay. Let me put it this way, right? Someone in the comments, Mo's Art says, an exhausting amount of communication doesn't sound romantic to me. And I feel like I get that. But hold on a second. I apologize.
Yeah, you're fine.
A cat who is sitting at my feet and meowing. So I just needed to
Heck yeah.
grab her. What I was going to say is the reason that we communicate so much is because you cannot expect everyone else to take on your emotional your emotional weight. I was going to say burden, but it's not always a burden. Sometimes it's wonderful being there for other people. It feels great. And
yeah,
I think that person needs to own their shit. And you need to let them. If they're saying that they want to be a primary partner of yours, then either that's something they want to do or it's not something they want to do. But trying to take that decision from them and make that decision for them doesn't feel super appropriate.
Yeah. Well, to make this issue slightly more complicated.
All right, cool.
They are currently engaged to that partner.
Okay.
And I'll be moving in with both of them next month. So I don't want to stir the pot before we move together, and I don't want to become a source of anxiety or making their partner feel insecure in their relationship.
Oh, especially when you're all living together. Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah, I've also known their partner since I was, 14. I'm 26 now, so 12 years.
Okay. Yeah, that is really, really tough. Oh my goodness. So
they're perhaps my best friend.
Okay. It's interesting. I feel like if I wasn't doing a call-in show, I would want to talk about specifics in my own relationships. But I feel like that isn't the right thing to do since I'm doing this on air.
Yeah. This is SKEPGEN, not relationship advice with Eric.
Hey, honestly, you're the first and only caller so far today. You got my full undivided, well, not, it is divided. The cat's playing with me, but, you have my attention. You've got the stage, so you're good. First question, do you have people, or at least maybe a therapist or someone that you're talking about this with?
No, because I don't currently have health insurance.
Got it. Okay. I think Jesus, sorry, my cat is attacking my microphone.
Do it up, kitty. Peck up the show.
Oh my gosh. She's literally got her claw in the microphone. I'm sorry, everybody. Anyway, you need somebody to talk about this with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that person should necessarily be the person who becomes your primary partner either.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not romantically involved that you can just talk about this with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then moving on from there, I think that, I think you already know what the answer is. You know, if you're not getting what you need to go get it. You need to find it.
Yeah.
And everything else is going to need to go from there. But
Yeah.
I think of all things, you definitely should not try to continue to be unhappy just because it satiates everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, you do need to put your well-being in the front, because you know, you can't expect everyone else to. And really, at the core of it, like, I kind of want to get back to that comment in the live chat. Somebody saying that this much communication doesn't sound sexy or anything like that. Honestly, I feel like fully understanding yourself, you know, fully understanding the relationship that you're in takes a lot of weight off. I know that I've been in more monogamous relationships than poly relationships in my life. I didn't even try poly until I was over 30.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to anticipate what the other person wants or needs and not communicating it is brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And at least we don't have to deal with that. So,
yeah. I do find enjoyment in the amount of communication that goes on in my poly relationship, mainly because I like talking to people.
yeah.
It gives me a sense of, I don't know, to know that someone is intellectually capable of communicating their wants and needs is something that I personally do find very attractive. But yeah.
Yeah. No,
not for everybody, I suppose.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mozart says they were mostly joking. Yeah, I know, but it's a really good conversation starter, and it's something that a lot of people do believe. So I'm glad you brought it up. Ashley, I don't know where to go from here. I do want to, like, send you hugs though, and wish you the best of luck. Yeah, you deserve all the happiness in the world, and I want you, and I wish for you to find that. You know, I'm glad you've got so much already, and looking for a primary, because, you know, it sounds like for you and your polycule, hierarchical relationships are where everybody's at. I think it's reasonable. I think it's understandable, and it should be understood by everybody involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I guess
it is interesting. I wanted this to be the love episode, and it does feel like we're getting in the weeds on love. So I'm definitely grateful.
Yeah. I this morning I had thought about calling with this topic specifically to ask your feelings about how structures like nesting partners and stuff, how you view that. And more, I guess, the philosophical aspect of polyamory.
Ooh, okay.
And then I saw the title of the video, and I was like, I'm doing this.
Today is the day.
Today's the day. You told me to call in last week, but I've totally forgotten what that topic was.
No worries, I have as well. I'm glad we're on the topic for the day. Actually, that's good. What do I think about it philosophically? Well, I think that so I'm sure you already know this spiel, and so this is more for the viewer. But I think that feeling of butterflies that you get when you're falling in love is an incredible, beautiful, amazing thing. And if you only have one life to live, then if I'm in love with somebody, I want them to have all of the best feels. You know, I want them to experience everything that they can, as much as they can, while they're here, while they're alive. And so wanting them to create beautiful, loving connections, wanting them to have those butterflies, is important to me. It makes me feel like I'm empowering them living their best life.
Yeah.
And on the selfish side of it, I think that, and this is just me speculating, I'm not a therapist, but I think that it's really difficult expecting just one person to carry all of the load when it comes to someone else's emotional needs.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling really depressed, it's really not fair for me to be like, V, I need you to carry all of this weight of my depression. It's a whole lot easier to call the team, and say, hey,
Yeah.
everybody, my partner's feeling depressed. Let's do something about this.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I definitely think that it is a lot nicer. It is a lot nicer. I don't, yeah, I don't know where philosophically it stands. I think I would need other people to call in to kind of give me their take, because I'm not sure if there's necessarily a philosophy that's getting impacted by it. I don't think
Well,
there's.
I mean,
Do you think?
especially with
Go ahead.
hierarchical style relationships.
Hmm.
Uh, so it, I guess the question becomes: is all hierarchy necessarily a bad thing? Um, I'm not. I don't think that it is when you're talking about relationship structures. Um, it certainly can be awful, but as long as everybody is open and communicating with all of their partners, and like, hey, this is my primary nesting partner. They're just kind of my priority. It
So
can feel bad, but
well, I think that you really need to make sure that what you have to offer is what you're offering. And if you're offering a
yeah,
place in your heart for someone, then that place needs to be there. I'm fine with hierarchical poly relationships. I'm in one. That said, my partner and I have talked a lot about it, and we view the idea of, like, I wouldn't get in the way of their relationships with other people, and never am I going to let my insecurity be something that prevents them from having those positive relationships. I feel like it is supremely unfair to take away a relationship from somebody that I'm with. Like that feels so deeply insecure and selfish. And I think that that's at the core of it. Is it's not fair to the non-primary person if they're only getting the leftovers. You know,
yeah,
they need to have a place, and that place needs to be understood and respected. And if that's happening, I feel like you're good.
yeah,
Yeah, and honestly, it's interesting coming at it from a monogamous headspace. I thought to myself, why would anybody sign up for that? But turns out that when you're in that kind of relationship and you're just forward with people and letting those people make their own grown ass decisions, that they come to understand, accept, and respect it too. So it's a lot easier than people think when
yeah,
it comes to that. But yeah.
yeah. I think a common accusation is, well, hierarchical poly is or can be just cheating on your partner without your partner being mad about it, and that
Oh.
is wholly untrue.
Oh, hell no. Okay, but so I think therein is one of the big differences between monogamous and poly relationships. People don't understand what cheating is,
Yes,
right?
I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, what's your definition of cheating? And before we do, I do want to put the phone number out there because I don't want to talk to other people today as well, and I would love to get some more people calling
Yeah.
in. So before we move on, 412 SKEPGEN, that's 412 753 7436, or you can call online using tiny.cc/skepgen. That's tiny.cc/skepgen. I have a call screener waiting to talk to you. And thank you for waiting, actually. All right, what's your definition of cheating?
So for me, I generally use breaking established boundaries with partners. So if someone were to like not let a partner know that like they're going to a bar or whatever for the expressed purpose of like hitting on people, et cetera, and bring their partner along, that feels very icky. But I guess it's not like there isn't like a hard fast rule that I see. It's just kind of breaking established boundaries and established like communicative.
Well communicated boundaries. Yeah, I'd love to kind of jump in on there. I kind of approach it from that whole social contract thing. Generally, we live in a monogamous society, and so there's a social contract that has, pretty clear expectations of what cheating is. And being in a polyamorous relationship means that you need to develop a new contract with each other. And that is a set of expectations. Yeah. I think that's what you mean when you say boundaries. And so by acting against and purposefully, well, even not purposefully, but that's understandable, but purposefully breaking those contracts feels that's where cheating begins. If you're in a relationship and that person going to the bar and picking up others is understood that that's what they're going to do, it's not cheating.
Correct. Yep.
And so as long as you agree to it together and that's what you're going by, then you're fine. But just breaking those well-defined, you said it, boundaries. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
All right.
Ashley, thank you for calling in.
So now that we've agreed a bunch. I
really appreciate that you sound young. The fact that you can communicate your needs and understand what you need is amazing. And I feel like that is putting you on the right path. I feel like it gives you such a leg up in being able to get what you need when you understand what it is. And I wish you all the luck in the world. And I'm sure you're going to do great.
Thanks. Hopefully. I very much appreciate you, Eric. I appreciate the time and the patience that you give to me and to all the other callers.
Absolutely.
I do appreciate your thoughtfulness, and hopefully the rest of the show goes well for you.
Hopefully. This might be a short show. I don't have any other callers on the line, so I am going to be talking about the topic, and we'll see where the show goes from there. But Ashley, thank you for calling in.
Yep. If I think of anything else and you still don't have any callers, I'll call back in.
No worries.
I don't want this to be a one-man show,
Oh, you know what? Sometimes it happens. I've got to tell you, some shows, there are 8, 9 people waiting. I never get to everybody, and they're filtering in and out, and the call screener is trying to find the best calls to keep and rotating through. And other weeks it's really slow, and I don't know why, but that's just the case. So I'm totally okay with it, and it's just the nature of the beast. But thank you for calling.
Oh,
what's up?
Can I put one more thing in?
Yeah, one last thing. Go ahead.
So a couple of weeks ago, you'd asked if the God Awful Movies guys are still around doing things.
Mm-hmm.
They very much are.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad to hear it. I got to meet all of them, and I got to get to know and spend a good amount of time with No Illusions, and they're just really, really sweet people.
Yeah,
So,
they seem really awesome.
Yeah, they are. Anyway,
both Anna and Lucinda, both amazing people.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Lucinda was so sweet to me. Yeah, no, good human beings. Anyway.
Yeah.
Ashley, take care of yourself.
Alrighty. You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, so it looks like we do have somebody calling in, and the call screener is taking them. I do want to get the phone number out there, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the topic while we wait. I know I keep flashing the phone number, but it's just my way of trying to drum up calls. So thank you for your patience, everybody. 412-SKEPGEN or tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. If you've been waiting to call, or you have a topic that you want to talk about, even if it's not necessarily around love or anything like that, today's the day. Let's talk about it. You've got my time. You've got my attention. Let's do it. All right. So we talked a bit about love, right? I feel like with Ashley, we talked about the structures around love. And as two non-believers, you can obviously tell that whether you subscribe to being able to love multiple people or only one person, we definitely believe it's there. And we can quantify it, and I think that's an incredible thing. I definitely don't think that love is somehow non-tangible in a way that makes it inaccessible to skeptics or to, methodological naturalists. That said, I also feel the same about kindness, charity, honesty, justice, compassion, right? All of those things are just mixtures of emotions and motivations, and in the right quantities, we have names for them. That's all it is. I don't think it cheapens it. I think understanding a thing doesn't cheapen it. You can see the beauty in it, and I love the beauty of love, kindness. So, that was my piece there. I have a caller that I would like to take, but they're still getting screened. So let me read through the comments. I do, by the way, I got a super chat from Sean Isherwood. Thank you, Sean. Anybody who does want to make sure that their comment gets read, leave a super chat. I read them at the end of every episode, and I do my best not to miss any. So if you want to make sure that gets in front of me, you have something to say, type that in a super chat and it'll come across. That said, I want to read a couple of comments. Valiant Ferguson asked, what happened to V? Yeah, I'll tell you what happened to V. I get this question almost every episode. V is doing great. They gave me a kiss and wished me luck before this show, like 4 minutes before show started. We're living together in Portland, Oregon. I'm not giving more details because I don't want to dox myself. It's a big enough city. But they are amazingly, wonderfully busy. They're really, really active in their work. They're joining multiple community groups, several different activist organizations. They have been on the board of a nonprofit and are doing community organizing, local stuff, and they're happy. On top of that, they're getting to read as much as they want. Right now they are at probably either a park or a coffee shop reading a good book, and I love that. The thing is, for them, I feel like the attention of it, needing to talk into a camera, do the lights, do the call-ins, do the description and the tags and the video and all of that, it's a job. And V made a decision to choose to do other things. So they're doing well. They're happy. We're still together. And yeah, so that's the case. At some point in the future, I'd love to get them on as a guest, but gonna need to get another microphone. So it's gonna happen just eventually, not currently. That said, let's move on. Good, we've got some more callers. Let's talk to Derek in Oklahoma. Derek, you're live on the show.
Hello, Eric. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm so glad I don't need to do a short episode. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I heard you were having a little bit of issues there, and I figured, you know what, I would rather, you are probably one of the more non-invasive people to talk to on one of these kinds of shows. So I was hoping you would be able to give me a soft introduction as to some of the issues involving trans and different view perspectives from people such as Richard Dawkins.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, my. Okay. So first off, the atheist skeptic, all of that philosophically, exists separate from all of the different intersections, including trans issues. So I cannot speak for other atheists. I cannot speak for other skeptics. I can talk about a little bit about Richard Dawkins, though. I met him a couple of times. Little guy. He was kind of, I don't want to say he was shy, but he didn't have, he didn't talk a lot. But he definitely has a very specific set of skills, and those skills are well developed to speaking on stage. He's really good at it. And because of that, people take what he has to say, even if it's outside of his area of expertise, with more weight than they should. And I think that Richard Dawkins really... He's an evolutionary biologist. Evolutionary biology doesn't really come into the social issues around being transgender. It's just its own thing. So I don't know, what specifically about it do you want to know? Like, what's
Okay.
Yeah. Help me out here.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I'm kind of conflicted with. So I'm an atheist, and, in regards to people's religious ideologies and views, I don't really necessarily appreciate it if I have them imposed upon me. And then I started thinking about the trans issue, and it seems as though, and this is why I'm so glad I called in to talk with you, because it seems as though it rubs me off on this particular way, that if somebody views themselves as trans and has this opinion for me to express their views as if it were my views to confirm their sexual identity. Now, normally, I don't have a problem with what somebody has identified as, but to get to such a degree to essentially want to force me to identify them, is that coherent?
It's coherent in that I understand it as a talking point. And my example that I'll go back to is Prop 8. So apparently I'm fucking old now. I'm 37. And I was an adult when Prop 8 in California was a thing, and people were talking about gay marriage, and, before gay marriage was made legal in the United States, right? And people talked about it in the same way. They said, why are they forcing their stuff on others? I don't think that it's forcing gayness on somebody to recognize that somebody's gay. I don't think I'm forcing somebody's political opinion down another person's throat if I recognize that someone is gay, right? So let's say that we have, I don't know, Stephanie. Stephanie is our example, right? So someone I made up. Stephanie's gay. If we're talking about Stephanie being gay, I don't feel like she's shoving or forcing or requiring me to accept some political opinion of hers to say that she's gay. I don't know what it's putting down people's throats. Like the only way that would make sense is if she was straight and lying about it, and everyone, and you were, and like, I don't know. It carries these weird assumptions. Like, what about it makes it feel like it's getting pushed down your throat or forced on you to recognize just a fact about somebody?
Well, so this is why it's such kind of like a convoluted idea or concept for me.
Yeah.
So first off, I try not to be from my perspective in any sort of way a bigot. I actually have a couple of people I've known for years who have identified as trans and have made a transition from a male to a female, and I wish them the best, and I see some of the things and issues they got going on, and I feel I feel for them, and I know them as great people, either or whichever side of the fence that they land on. I wish nothing but the best for them. So the thing is kind of like I want to harken back to the identity principle associated with religion. It's like somebody from being in a religious circle who demands that I acknowledge their God, kind of thing. Am I able to make?
No, because I see where you're going with it, and I think that a better analogy would be to say if someone was Catholic and they said, I am Catholic, and you didn't want to recognize them as being Catholic, right? They're self-identifying. When someone self-identifies, when you try and fight it, you're gatekeeping, and it gets real fucking weird for no reason. If someone's Catholic and they say that they're Catholic, I'm going to be like, okay, you're Catholic. If someone says they're Christian, cool, I guess, right? I'm not going to sit here and pull out the scales and try and measure whether or not they're Catholic enough for me to call them Catholic, right? I'm not needing to recognize their God. I'm recognizing their self-identification. Now, this is especially more like important when we're talking about core pieces of who you are, right? Because somebody can change their religious affiliation, but I firmly believe that you cannot change, core identity principles about yourself like that.
Right.
And because of that, I feel like it's an even easier ask to recognize somebody as trans, You know
what? I think that is a very valid point because, as I mentioned earlier, I knew someone who was in this they had this heavy weight and burden on them because whenever they were when they were essentially in society forced to identify as a male, you could always tell that this person felt very uncomfortable, and you could kind of get a sense that that a weight had been lifted, even though that there's a lot of people out there who hold an opinion and try to, behave like a bigot toward this person and put them down, which is gross and immature. I'm beginning to see a little bit more of how it is less important. It's more important to validate that person rather than to be selfish and your own insecurity of understanding their situation. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
There's an ought there that I agree with, but at the same time, I feel like the core issue of just recognizing someone's identity is a whole lot easier than that. It's really easy to recognize somebody like that because you're not needing to what's interesting is I remember the gay debate, right? In 2007 or so, something like that. People thought that recognizing other gay people, they needed to be gay for it, or that it was going to turn them gay. Like there was some kind of, communicable disease that they were going to catch, and all of a sudden they're going to get the gay. And
right.
And I feel like that. I feel like that thought is circulating around trans issues. People are just like, oh, you're forcing your trans agenda. What is the agenda? Recognizing their humanity, right? Being like, oh, hey, this is how this is how you present, right? Or this is how you want to be perceived. I don't know. And also I feel like there's so much other stuff that's tied up in it that's really, really weird. Like, I changed my name. Derek, you may not know that. I changed my name as an adult.
Okay.
I was not born with this name. If you were to insist on calling me by my old name, why? you insisting on dead naming people, after they have gone by, chosen to go by something else. It's just weird in any other situation. And so I don't understand how it's any more valid in talking about, trans folks. It makes no sense to me. But is
okay. I understand your point very clearly there. Now, man, I just had it and it slipped my mind a little bit. Oh, never mind. I apologize. Continue.
No worries. I let me guess. Were you going to bring up they them? Was that going to be
no?
Oh, right.
I was gonna. It was gonna be something along reality and I can't remember exactly where it was going. So if it slipped my mind, it's probably it'll come back to me in a moment. Or
of course, or what's going to happen is right after the call you're going to remember it. That's always what happens. It's so frustrating. But Derek, you seem to be like somebody who genuinely is asking questions with an open mind and an open heart, and not having had the opportunity to talk to other people about it. And I appreciate you calling in. I think that, well, I'm happy to be here and talk about it as much as I can. That said, I'm not trans. And so I don't represent trans people. I don't want to pretend like I'm doing so. I'm just giving you my best understanding as well.
Got you. And that's in this, and like I said, in this circumstance, I wouldn't want to. I'm glad I called into you to try and reconcile some of these ideas and concerns and just placement issues of things I'm dealing with, because of I feel like maybe some of the other places out there in the interweb of these realms and conversations would get too heated and just become. So I'm glad that you helped me ease into the waters with this kind of discussion.
Yeah.
And
what you're going to find. What you're going to find in like the Dawkins camp is there's something called transmedicalism, right? And if you want a primer, here's basically some real basic stuff. Some people accept trans folks only after they've transitioned, or as long as they've made an effort to transition, and that's called transmedicalism. Right. There's this kind of statement of, oh, you're not a true trans person. And because of that, the pejorative used for them, and I use it, is I call them true scum. Not everybody can afford to transition.
right.
And not everyone's bodies can handle that transition. And because of that, forcing and expecting something expensive or dangerous on them in order to recognize something just basic about them feels really, really cruel. And there are people who don't accept trans people as existing at all, right? You get your J.K. Rowlings, those kinds of folks, and they believe that it's tied to genitals. And here's my statement.
Sex and not gender.
Right. And you understand the difference between sex and gender. But even when it comes to sex, let me give you a hypothetical, right? If you were to talk to somebody who came back from war, stepped on a landmine, had their genitals blown off, right? Let's say this person is male, and they had their whole package blown off in war. Are you going to refuse to call them a man?
Of course not.
Why? They don't have the genitals.
Well, mainly because of that's what they were born as, but that's not necessarily an all true kind of position to handle. But ultimately, it would also depend on what that person identifies still. Like if they happen to get their genitals blown off and they were like, you know what, I wanted to be a woman anyway.
And also, you're not asking people to take down their drawers just to meet your satisfaction. That's fucking weird, And so if some
like that Olympic boxer making the rounds in the news, who was born female, and she happened to have this like rare condition where she has XY chromosomes.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not that rare. The thing is how many people get their chromosomes tested? Like,
That's very true.
Yeah, and the fact is yeah, you have a cis woman, right? Transphobia damages cis people as well. And I feel like, yeah, you have an example, right? It was just this last week, right? There were two cis women in a boxing match at the Olympics. One of them was accused of being trans, even though she's always been a woman. And
Right.
what the fuck? And even if it was a trans woman, right, we can have a full conversation around that. But yeah, no, it feels very gatekeepy, and I don't know why we're sitting here armed to the teeth at the gates. And what you're going to see in those conversations online is people who are gatekeeping, trying to gatekeep each other out of self-identification, and it feels like a losing battle to me. Why do that? Why? I don't care.
I think
You know?
those people, people that I've seen in these discussions engaged online through, Facebook or wherever they're at, they seem very, very bigoted. I mean, there's just absolutely no understanding of another person as an individual beyond the realm of their own, their brain encased their head. Like it's so,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's
really
othering.
hard to-
It's othering. It's something that we as humans do. Recognizing. I definitely understand that. We have our in-group, out-group dynamics. We have what we view as our people and everyone else, and we want to protect our people, and we dehumanize everyone else. And I definitely feel like that kind of approach is being doled out to the trans community, and I think it's cruel. I think it's incredibly uncharitable, unkind, and just unnecessary. I'm not forcing you to do a thing unless I'm like, am I forcefully transitioning you? Am I going to your
Right.
house and like forcing you to take testosterone blockers? Am I forcing you to marry someone you don't want to marry? Am I forcing you to wear a dress? Like, if that was the case, then you could use that language. But if I'm just saying this is me, and you're just refusing to recognize somebody's self-identification, it's just unnecessary. Anyway, that's where I stand on it, and that's probably the best primer. Going into it, you're going to see somebody called a true scum. Now you know what that is. You know what transmedicalism is. You probably have a better idea of where Dawkins is and where people like me are. And these
Absolutely, and that's why I'm so glad that you were available to talk to. I was actually kind of concerned because I've been going through YouTube, and one of your shows is definitely, you and V are an incredible team, and I have so much fun watching you. Deep respect to you guys. I was actually concerned as to whether or not you still did YouTube, and I seen earlier this week that you had a show planned, and I'm like, listen, I'm going to tune in for that.
I love that. Good. Yep. The show is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central. And yeah, spread the word. Let people know I'm back.
All right, that's what's up, brother. We'll see you.
All right. Take care, Derek.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Were we all expecting things to go like that? Because that went well. I don't know. If it didn't, let me know. But there we go. All right, let's move on and talk to our next caller. We have Sunny in Indiana. Sunny. Oh, let's try that again. Sunny, you're live on the show.
Wait, there's the beep.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
It's going really well. How are you?
Man, I am just thrilled that last call went the way that it did.
Yeah, right. I was not expecting it, but this is somebody. It kind of makes me sad that we are in an environment where just asking questions has become code for being a dick, and it makes it hard for people who are actually just asking questions.
Right. I
but-
respect the genuine curiosity and their open-mindedness. That was great.
Me too. So, Sunny, what did you want to talk about?
Optimistic nihilism.
Ooh, okay. Talk to me. Hit me. What do you got?
Sure. Well, I was kind of wondering if you could give me your opinion on this, because I've been kind of curious about the concept of nihilism for a while. It kind of feels like it fits for me, but my initial exposure to the concept of nihilism came from The Big Lebowski. and I don't know if you remember the nihilists in that movie or not.
We are nihilists, Lebowski. We believe in nothing. Yes,
exactly.
They were Nazis, but they had a nice marmot. I remember. Yeah.
They did. Oh my god. Oh, class. I'm gonna have to rewatch that after this. Anyway, so that was my initial exposure to the concept of nihilism, and of course it looks really goofy and stupid in that movie. So I was not exactly excited to embrace the label after that. But in recent years, I've been kind of thinking about it more and trying to understand it better, and I feel like I relate to it. The reason that I called is because I wanted to kind of get your feelings on nihilism as a whole, and specifically, eventually get into the concept of optimistic nihilism, which is where I feel like I kind of fall on that. Because I like the idea, I like the thought, I feel like I relate to it, but I didn't know if there was any sort of baggage to it that I'm not aware of that you could bring to light.
Yeah, there's definite history there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you want to just start getting into nihilism, if you haven't read a lot of Nietzsche, Nietzsche has some really, really interesting kind of views as far as like breaking apart how society is and how we operate with each other, with the understanding that it's all constructed. It's interesting to question the motivations of society when you no longer hold that some greater power is the reason why everyone does things the way they do. An example of it that blew my mind was when Nietzsche talked about humility. Right. So like for me, growing up, going to church, being humble was virtuous. Right. It felt wonderful. It felt like, it's not enough that you do good things, but you don't puff yourself up about it. You play it down and people recognize you as a humble person. Right. Does that kind of fit with your understanding of humility as well?
I mean, I grew up in an evangelical Christian.
Oh, so you fucking know. Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. So what Nietzsche said, and I honestly I went out with somebody years ago who was their family was very, very wealthy. And humility was not a virtue for them. It just wasn't. And it turns out that, in really kind of wealthy groups, having money was viewed as virtuous for them, which was really weird for me. I didn't understand it, but they believed that kind of the wealthier you were, the more good you were, potentially, because they viewed that if you have more money, then you must necessarily be more ambitious or more motivated or whatever the case is. And so you have the morality of the masses, and then you have the morality of the rich. And he proposed that humility was something that the rich want the poor to have because, yeah, I'm poor, but at least I can look at the wealthy landowner, the person who actually has all of the things that I need to survive, and at least I can comfort myself by saying, well, at least I'm humble. It's to placate the masses. It's a morality used to subjugate, or so that people can subjugate themselves.
I had not considered that, but that makes sense. Yeah.
It's gross. It's really gross. Yeah. So if you haven't read Nietzsche, there's some really cool stuff there. But
I've got a tab open about him.
But
so I'll look at his.
And what's really crazy is you have all of these different people afterward who are looking at nihilism and trying to react to it. You have this idea, nothing has intrinsic meaning. Okay. You could, be like the nihilist in The Big Lebowski and say, we believe in nothing. But
so nothing matters and I'm inherently immoral and going to be mean to you for no reason. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's weird, and there's not much meat on the bone there, is there? There's
no.
But there are people who have built their entire philosophy with the understanding that nihilism is the case. And what's funny is, you have people like Camus, Read The Stranger. The Stranger is really interesting, and if you're up for it, it is a dense freaking read. But The Myth of Sisyphus by Camus, that is absurdism. Absurdism is a response to nihilism. You have existentialism, which is Jean-Paul Sartre. I feel like Sartre is probably your best entry point.
How do you spell that?
Sartre, I believe. Or
Okay.
I think so.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it'll get there.
Okay.
He especially like reading his speeches, and I believe that there are some recordings of him talking, and you can watch them, and they are incredible, absolutely incredible. He also wrote a book that is the densest, most difficult read. I do not recommend it. It's called Being and Nothingness.
Ooh.
Look up the Spark Notes. Please check out the Spark Notes. That's fine. There's also a book, I forgot the name of last time, but a caller had asked, and so I'm happy to give it here. It's called At the Existentialist Cafe. And that's kind of
I feel like I've heard of that.
It's a good start. And so to give you an idea of Sartre and Camus, Sartre essentially said that we can create meaning for ourselves. We create meaning for our lives, and we have a responsibility and an opportunity that is amazing and beautiful. And the fact that we're not given, anything from on high, and that we have a responsibility for our actions because this is the only life that we have. It's really inspiring. It's really, really beautiful.
And that's the thing that has me curious, or that has me kind of excited about embracing the label of nihilism.
Yeah,
because I genuinely feel that.
Yeah, you're gonna find a lot in existentialism. Absurdism does not enjoy the idea of creating meaning at all.
Yeah, that's not me. I do feel like meaning is important, but only but it's complicated, right?
Yeah, well, because it's important to you, but who are we? We're nothing.
Right, exactly, yes.
Yeah, so what is important to a fleeting speck?
Right, I feel like declaring that something is important flies in the face of that philosophy in the first place.
And that is absurd. That is absurdism. So you've got absurdism, you got existentialism, and obviously there's a whole lot more, and there's really, really cool stuff going on from there. And then you all have people like Kierkegaard. And Kierkegaard was a Christian and said that in the face of nihilism, choosing to believe, even with no evidence, was a valiant, noble, good thing. He uses the story of Abraham and Isaac as an example. He talks about Abraham having been told by an angel to take his son to the top of a mountain and sacrifice him for God. And the belief that Abraham had, the conviction that he had to take his son to the top of the hill with the full intent on killing him, made him the best kind of Christian.
Oh, okay.
I obviously... no, it's super gross to me. Yeah. But I do want to try and represent it as well as I can. And so you also have that. I had the name of that in my head, and now I'm completely forgetting it. But that's another response to nihilism as well. And I think with those three, that's probably a really good place to start. Also, if you just want like a really good evening, Sartre's partner, they were poly, by the way. Sartre's partner, Simone de Beauvoir, fucking incredible. Listening to interviews with Simone de Beauvoir and reading the stuff that she's written was mind-blowing. Just when it came to skepticism and when it came to like philosophy of Simone de Beauvoir, not necessarily, a response to nihilism, but people who were active in that world at that time. Definitely a really good philosopher to check out.
Yeah, I'm looking at her Wikipedia page right now, and she looks like she emanated badassedness.
Right?
Yeah.
She abso-fucking-lutely did. And I wish, oh my God, what I would give to get just a chance to sit down and hang out with Simone de Beauvoir. Like, holy crap. Holy crap. I think you're going to have a really good time looking that up.
Awesome. Thank you. I've got like 20 tabs open to explore now.
Good. I hope you enjoy it. And if you come across something really cool, give me a call. I'd love to hear about it. And
yeah, I'll report back and let you know if I've decided to embrace the label of nihilist or not.
Again, I feel like existentialism is that kind of what you're talking about, that positive nihilism. Okay, and existentialist might be a more concise definition. But yeah, no, I want to know if you're an existentialist after this, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I have heard the term existentialist before, but I didn't really look into it, so I hadn't thought about what it really means. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon.
Beautiful.
This and put together a new standard competitive deck for Magic. Wish me luck.
Ooh, what color?
White-green, using mostly cards from the Bloomburrow set, which has been amazing, by the way, for folks who are in it. But
okay.
It's a tournament in a week, so wish me luck on that.
Hey, you know what? White-green is a respectable deck. I usually run blue because I'm a bastard.
Bye. And all respect for Eric went out the I'm just kidding.
I completely understand. I never said that I was a good person, Sonny.
That's fair. I'm just teasing anyway.
Yeah. Take care. Good luck.
Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye. That was fun. All right, let's move on to our next call. See, look at this. We pick up traction and we get moving. Let's talk to Michael in New York. Michael, you're live on the show.
Hey, Eric, how are you doing this week?
Hey, oh my gosh, your voice, your connection is amazing.
It's a nice microphone.
It is a very nice. I like this. You can call in anytime. I'm doing good, man. I am honestly, I'm medicated for the first time in like 5 months.
I heard that. I got a notification that the show was beginning. I was driving. I was hoping I would get home in time to talk with you, but I made it, which is good.
I'm glad. All right, I'm just getting you here in
you're feeling good.
I am. I'm just getting you in the lower third here. What did you want to talk about?
At the beginning of the show, you said something that I was thinking about on the way home. You said, something, I'm paraphrasing, so please excuse me if I don't get it right, but you said something along the lines of how a skeptic or an atheist might explain or deal with the concepts of like honesty or integrity or something like that.
Well, you can't look at it under a microscope, right? And obviously, like, I'm putting on the hat of the apologist here. But yeah, how do you explain it?
Well, I think that I'm not going to say they're simple concepts because, you can take a whole class on ethics or something like that. Yeah. But I think they are well established enough to me that I can use them as a guiding force when I make decisions and I'm thinking about how my actions might influence other people or affect other people, sort of in place of a strict, objective, moral circumstance that comes from like a religion. To me, they are sort of an upgrade from, a religious moral code. I think that integrity and honesty are probably the two things that I aspire to achieve more than anything else. Not saying that I'm perfect, but that I really look to truth and honesty and integrity in navigating my interactions with other people more than anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I hadn't really looked at it through that viewpoint, and that's interesting. So just to kind of reflect this back at you, make sure I've got this right, you're viewing concepts like honesty and integrity as guiding stars that you can set your ship to, right? That you can kind of direct. So kind of in this kind of Platonic sense, right? There's this concept of honesty. There's this concept of integrity, and you do not embody them. You just make sure that you're pointing towards them.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of like a Platonic ideal is kind of fitting here. I think, like I said, I'm not going to claim that I've thought through all of the deep nitty-gritty points that there are to sort out.
Yeah.
But I do think I have a pretty good idea of like, well, I shouldn't lie about that, and I shouldn't say this to somebody because it's not true, and it wouldn't be ethical of me to do this because that would be, even at a surface level, as someone who doesn't study this stuff, doesn't read about this stuff, not a philosopher or anything like that, there's still a lot of value in the guidance that they provide me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does. So honestly, what you're at what I feel is the proper end point to working through some fallacious reasoning, and I'd love to kind of lay it out. A lot of people, and I find myself, heck, I was doing it this episode. I was talking about these concepts, like honesty, integrity, and love, as things that we have in ourselves. Right. I was talking about them as like sets of chemical interactions, motivations, feelings, right? Things that are within me. And the way that you're approaching them is you're viewing things like honesty and integrity as something that you are conceptually pointing towards, not something that is in you, but it's something that you are striving for. And
yes. I think it's taught or observed.
Yeah. And I think that is a really, so there's a fallacy, and it is, I'm going to forget the Latin name for it, but the kind of colloquial name for it is confusing the map for the place. And I feel
right. I know what you're talking about.
And I feel like talking about honesty and integrity the way you do helps. That's a really, really good way of viewing it, because you're looking at honesty and integrity as descriptions, right? And so for this example, right, that would be the map. And what a lot of people will do is they'll look at that description and they'll think that that is a physical, tangible thing, right? Something you can stick under a microphone. You're confusing the map for the actual place.
Sure.
Right? Pointing at the map doesn't mean you're actually physically there. And I think that viewing it that way, I really like that. Really helps kind of
I think
illustrate it.
Not only a guiding concept, but like, we can describe things as being honest or like I can behave in an honest way or a dishonest way. Like they can describe behaviors, and we can look at someone's behaviors and say that wasn't honest of them. So in a way, we externalize these concepts by our choices. I know somebody who does not care whether or not the things they say are true, and will just lie if it's the most convenient thing to do. And so it's like, it's not innate. They just don't care. And so, it was something that I had to develop and foster, and I'm constantly working towards what's the most ethical way to handle this conversation, or is it appropriate for me to say this to this person? Those types of things. I think they are qualities that I ascribe to or would like to work towards, but I don't think that they are just a part of me by default, I guess.
I like that a lot. I like that. That is very humble of you, Michael. just
well, I don't,
based off of no, I agree. I think that's a good way to look at it.
We all do stupid things and make bad choices, and I've made bad choices and hurt people and done stuff I shouldn't have done. We all have. Anyone acting otherwise is lying.
But
it's just a guiding force.
I would cringe out of my skin if I was stuck in a room with me from 10 years ago. No joke, for sure.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But yeah, no, viewing them as, was this in the direction of honesty? Was this in the direction of integrity? Was this in the direction of the version of myself that I want to see? The best version of myself that I can imagine. I think that's wonderful. People in the comments have brought up the idea of a platonic. We say platonic, but like your version of integrity is probably different from mine if we get into the weeds. And so it's not like there is some untouchable, perfect version of integrity. We all have our own versions, but the fact that we are striving towards what we feel is our best versions of ourselves, I think is admirable.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a difference between one person saying I want to be honest and the other person saying I don't care about honesty, versus two people saying we both want to act with integrity here. We maybe just have different views of what that means or how that would manifest in this situation. What is the ethical path here? I think there's conversations there, but I think coming at it where everyone's saying we obviously all want to handle this in an ethical way, and I've made decisions that cost me money or cost me professional opportunities or cost me relationships, but I felt that I had to because I knew that ethically that was the thing to do. And so it's it's really not about what's the most easy choice at any time. I mean, often this is the hard call to make, but I'm not scared of doing that, I guess.
So I feel like there's a larger conversation to be had. And when I am medicated, I work on my book. And my book is actually about something similar to this. And so I definitely feel like there's meat on this bone, because I feel like we don't always, sometimes our compass is off. And sometimes I feel like the stars that we set our lives by, right, when you're talking about our versions of honesty and integrity, are sometimes in a really weird direction that can be really damaging,
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I agree.
And I mean, my example to you there is, for me, downplaying my work because I felt weird and, like it was giving me a big head, caused me to be skipped over when promotion time came. Right. I was doing something that I thought was right. But it bit me in the ass. And so I definitely feel like we need to figure out how to calibrate those compasses.
Well, you know what? That's a really interesting example. That's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. I would like to offer you my view on it. It might be helpful to you. I have accomplished a lot professionally. I've published books and articles, and I've done research on topics that there was no information on before. So I have a lot to be proud of professionally, especially if you're a person who values the pursuit of knowledge. That's something that's important. So I just draw a distinction between my work and myself. I'm just a person. I'm a flawed person. I can be very proud of my work. I hope that and I know that my work helps people and influences people and enriches lives. But that doesn't mean that I want accolades or to be boosted up or to be treated like I'm better than anybody. I don't want any of that. I want my work to be recognized. It's not the same as me feeling like I need to have a pat on the back. That's the way I think about it.
I like that. I feel like that's definitely useful. I would need to play around with that idea a bit, because my first thought is there something maladaptive there? Is there some kind of, part of me that is that wouldn't benefit from? But honestly, that sounds like a pretty good brain hack. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think it's healthy to say I'm very proud of this work that I did. That doesn't necessarily need to go hand in hand with, I have a huge ego now. I mean, a lot of people do kind of equate those, but I don't. And just, I make sure that the way that I'm talking about my work from a third party position of observation, it's very like a mindless, mindfulness stance instead of I am not my work. It is not, look how great I am. It is really happy with this project or this output or this was interesting. And, the work can have value on its own, I guess, is the way that I would say it.
I like that a lot. Michael, thank you for offering that. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I look forward to reading your book whenever it's ready.
Well, now that I'm medicated, it's a whole lot more likely to actually happen. So I'm grateful for that. But thank you for calling in, and I really appreciate your input.
Absolutely. It's good to speak with you, Eric.
Hey, good to talk to you too. Take care.
Take care.
All right. Sweet guy. I had some really good callers. Speaking of, I would love to kind of take some of these conversations off air and just take off the jacket, roll up my sleeves, and just hang out with people. I really look forward to it after every episode. And if you want to join, you are absolutely welcome to. This is everybody watching. The link is in the description for this video. It's to the SKEPGEN Discord. You do not need to be a patron. Being a patron, there are different things, you get your name in a different font, yada, yada, yada. But come join, come say hi, come hang out. I would absolutely love that. I try to do an after show after every episode. Don't do it every time, but I try to. So please join me there. I do want to read some super chats. Sean Isherwood. Thank you, Sean. Sean says, after my call that had connection issues on Logic, I left a comment on the live video explaining my thoughts. Have I seen it? If not, please look. Sean, thank you. I will take a look. I have not seen it, but I will do so. And John Klein says, not a big donation. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. You say, not a big donation, but we have to start this new mic fund somewhere. Thank you, John. That $5 will, okay, I'll set it aside. And yeah, just going to need to get a new mic set up if I'm going to have other people in studio. But every little bit helps. And if you do want to support the show and, you know, giving money is not the thing, totally understood. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Do it right now. Well, while it's on your mind. Have you done it yet? If you like the show, definitely subscribe. That way you can get notifications. The show's not getting a whole lot of attention, and so people don't always get notifications that something's coming up. But if you hit the subscribe button, you're a whole lot more likely to see them come up in your feed. If you want to financially support the show, right now I'm paying whatever excess is needed out of pocket because I feel that this show is needed. I want to have these conversations. I want to keep doing this. If you'd like to see that and you want to help support it, consider going to patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. That's patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. And yeah, every little bit helps. That said, I think it's about time that I moved over to the after show. Thank you all so much for joining me. I feel like we really did kind of have a lot of conversation around the topic, and I really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And until next time, I'm glad we had this talk.